Alrighty folks, what's going on? Welcome back to Doc's Autos, and we are working on the Challenger today. What are we working on? We're not quite sure. We're just going to kind of roll things as they go. We've got, well, not a whole lot yet, but hopefully by the end of the video we'll have more parts and things to play with. I did go ahead recently and make some shelves out of the back, or the leftover wood from our cribbing from the building last year. So I've got a place to store parts now versus sitting on the ground. So as we start taking things off the car, we've got room up top for just laying parts out, and then down below is open so we can slot in some pallets if I want to, or I can put in some planking as well, like I've done up on the top for other stuff. So, you know, we've got some free wood here that came last year, and by today's prices, that's probably 400 bucks worth of wood. Nice 4x4 timbers. Yeah. So anyways, what I was getting at is we're going to keep working on the front fenders. Those need a lot of help. Hopefully this video here, like I've said before, we'll be able to get them close to prepped and ready for primer, or at least starting to get some of the filler on and skim coat, get those ready. And depending on what shows up, maybe we'll get working on some doors, strip that down. I know we're going to have to take some time and gut the interior, because since the roof's coming off, headliner's got to come down, dash is going to come out, because maybe putting air conditioning back in this thing. See what Darren wants to do. I think that's one of his goals. That'd be a new one for me, putting air conditioning in a car. But it had it at one time, so we'll see if we can come up with all the brackets and stuff for it. But otherwise, gutting the interior is going to be kind of a project, getting all that stuff out and preserving as much of it as we can. I know some of the things in there, like the seats, are damaged. You know, the cushions are ripped, or the covers are ripped from, you know, age. But anything we can save in there and restore, we're certainly going to do to A, keep some of the originality of the car and keep the cost down. I did go ahead and track down the source of our oil leakage when we're trying to get it started recently. The seal on the oil filter actually blew out and caused the oil to puke out. Oh, excuse me. Oh. So I did track down the reason all the oil came out of the car. The filter seal blew out, and that was that. So we've got a new filter in there, we've got new oil, and we should be ready to go as soon as we get this thing cranked over. And you know, I was going to fiddle with it more today, but then I figured, it's just going to tick me off. So we'll wait for Darren and his buddy to come over, who's got far more experience with older engines. But oddly enough, I got the 52 fired up myself without issue, so I don't know why an extra 4 liters of displacement and 2 cylinders is going to make a difference, but apparently it does. Anyways, we're going to keep flying along here, go back to the body panels, doors, whatever. So kind of vlog style, nothing really formal. So stick with me. We'll see where this goes. Blah. So anyways, back to the project for this video. It's going to be more of a vlog style, I guess. No real agenda, no real script, just kind of take things as they come and see where we go. So stick with me. We're going to have fun. Alrighty, so as we had started off in one of the other videos, we were working on getting the style line hammered back into place, and we're just about there. But what I want to do is I want to go start getting the rest of this surface rust and paint off of the vehicle, or off the fender. Inside here, there is a little gasket for, there you go, if you can see it. I don't want to drop this. Right in here, there's a couple little bolts, a little rubber doohickey between the headlight bucket and the fender, so I want to get that out and just kind of get this thing completely stripped down as far as I can go, so when I do get the sandblaster here in a couple of days, we can just go ahead and go to town on it and take care of those other little spots that do need work with the sandblaster. So here we go. Alrighty, that was about 7 minutes of grinding on this little part. And we see how much that I got off, about 18, 20 inches by 8 inches. It's gonna take a while to get everything else done. What I am noticing here is that there is quite a lot of pitting on the surface. I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not. There we go, if we get up close. Maybe you can. But that's gonna be fun for cleaning up. You know, of course, we're gonna have primer on here. Probably gonna be a few coats of primer, probably at least 3. Sand it down, build it up, and just see where we go until we hit it with that guide coat and we don't have any more issues or low spots. So I am not gonna drag you through the rest of this because this is gonna take quite a while. Just know, I'll come back, this is gonna be cleaned off. I'll come back at some point. This will be cleaned off. And I'm gonna hit it with a wire wheel as well to run over it. And then of course the sandblaster. So we'll have, you know, 3 different methods for getting this panel or fender all cleaned up and ready for moving down the line for prep. Yep, this is gonna be fun. Be back in a bit. All right, folks, well, I've probably got another 45 minutes of cleanup on this fender since I left you, and here's what we've got so far. This side is pretty well clear. I've got to go over it again, of course, with the wire wheel. There is a lot of pitting in here, like I mentioned, and if I run my hand over it, there is a lot of little dents and imperfections. This is probably the biggest one here, and this little dimple here, but there's just a lot of little ripples and waves right in here for sure. Luckily, this contour here is really probably almost perfect except for the pitting, so I'm not gonna have to do a lot of work there, but yeah, this area definitely is gonna need some massaging. Probably very light. I don't want to beat on it. And, you know, maybe just a very light skim coat is going to take care of everything but this area, I think. It's just a lot of little waves from, you know, age and abuse and whatnot. But at least there's nothing major in this panel, except for down here. That's what I was going to show you is this area here is going to need some help. There's a dent in here that has to come out, but also we have this elephant in the room. So pretty much rusted here. So this is gonna be a challenge in this area to patch up and do what we can with. But you know, again, at $600, $700 for a replacement panel, I'm gonna do all I can to try and fix this area. We've got some extra metal from our spare fender back on the shelf, so hopefully I can cut this out and start over and wind up with something a little better. I don't even want to try and save what's here. This is just coming out and getting replaced. So otherwise, I'm just going to keep cranking away on this fender. The nice thing is I'll be able to find out where all the holes were. I believe there is a Challenger logo marquee that goes in here somewhere. I have to figure out where it is and make sure I leave that hole open. But there's a little pinhole here, here, here. There's a bunch of them. Looks like there may have been a strip on here, a chrome strip or something at one time. Those are getting deleted. So, and then look at the fender flare itself. Mostly looks pretty good. But yeah, we're just gonna be working on this for a while. And then once we get this cleaned up, we wash, rinse, repeat over onto the passenger side. Dent here I'm gonna have to work on a little bit. This was an area of concern I found. Lots of pitting here and along in here too. So we'll have to see what can be done, get those cleaned out, and figure a process to get those fixed up. So we're just going to keep cranking away on it, I guess. It's it looked good to begin with. I mean, you know, panel, okay, fine. Surface rust, got a few little blemishes that I could see, but you take everything off and then it really doesn't look very pretty. I'm sure that could be equated to other things in life, but in this case, it's just, maybe I just clean it up, shoot clear on it, and give them a stainless DeLorean look type thing. And there's stuff in the lens again. Ugh, hope you guys can't see it. I can see it plain as day. Anyways, what do you think? Clear-coated stainless Challenger? Thumbs up, thumbs down? I don't know, saves on paint. All right, folks, we have done some work off camera. Went ahead and actually picked up a sandblaster. The one I used to have disappeared in a land far away long ago. Got a nice one here from Harbor Freight. And with the inside track membership, it was actually cheaper than the medium-sized one. And my main thing I wanted was to get this deadman switch or valve on here for easier on and off. So that's going to be nice. I went ahead and did some kind of prospecting in areas here, like around where this light is, where it's tough to get in with your wheel. Got that all cleaned up nicely, and some of these other cracks and crevices. And then on the back side of here, I cleaned up a lot too. We're going to reshoot with primer and undercoating. But the biggest thing I wanted to do is get this onto the vehicle now that I have the front off. And from what I'm seeing, the body lines, they're not horrible. The panels need some adjustment. That's for certain. There's a little bit of a gap here, a ridge here I don't like. This doesn't go down a whole lot. So again, I don't know if this is from the original vehicle or if this is a second that Darren had gotten at some point in time. Because you can see we've got a good gap here. It opens up right here, and then down here is tight, but also this is not set in the, this is not bolted in below, so that will change slightly. But I do want to go ahead and adjust this a little bit. Maybe it's just going to be a matter of tapping this down a little bit. I don't really have any adjustment here along the inner fender to adjust it up or down. So the door itself, the rest of the door, as you can see, sits well. And there's a kind of a wide gap here. I can't shift it back, of course, but you know, up and down it looks good and matches up with the rest of the style line here in the middle on back. So maybe we're just gonna have to accept that these are old cars and yeah, almost 50 years old, 72, yeah, something like that, almost 50 years old. So yeah. So I think we're just gonna have to accept this is an older car. Body lines does not match perfectly. And especially if these are not from the same vehicle, I can definitely see that there will be differences there. But this does give us the ability to check how it fits. I know we've got a dent in here. It has to be pulled out, but I need to attach the bottom of the fender to the car before I can use my stud gun and pull that dent out. And what I originally thought were trim holes because of one here and one up front. The rest of these are all holes drilled to pull out dents along here. So what I'm going to do is I've got to tap all these back down a little bit, and then I'm going to clean them out and fill them in with the welder and grind them down flush. Now, this panel still has some imperfections right in here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start hitting it with a little bit of filler and see where those high and low spots are. And kind of right in here is the suspect area, but I've managed to kind of hammer this out pretty well and get the style line back to almost where I think it should be. There may be a little bit of a dimple right here on this fender, but I don't have another good fender to compare it with. The passenger side one is also damaged, so I don't have a good one around here. A little bit of a ding here to fix. You know, you can see it's not perfect, but I think it's 90% better than it was. And I think with a little more time and filler, even just to find those low spots and get those knocked out, we'll be doing pretty good. So we got this in here, fits up right nicely now. I've got just some temporary hardware in here to hold it in place. And that's going to allow us to get this fit in pretty well. We do have the other inner fender for the passenger side, but I don't think I'm anywhere near ready to take this out and put it in yet. I want to get the engine running. So that's the big thing. That's kind of why I haven't been doing a lot of work up here yet. I want to make sure this is done and running before we start going, just throwing money at a bunch of different parts. So we've gotten a few things we know we're going to need, but I'd rather not tear all this apart until I know that the vehicle runs. Also, it'd be nice to get it out kind of in the middle of the garage or shop area here, so I'm not nestled between the trailer and the 52. The nice thing is that all the time and effort I'm putting into these patch panels, of course, all get covered up by the fender. So, you know, it is what it is. But the nice thing is we got this fender on here now. It fits on here and sits on here how it should, and everything lines up, which is great. It's just going to be a matter of pulling out that dent in the back by the door and then starting to get some fill on here. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and get these holes cleaned up and filled in and see if I have any hardware to use down here and get those bolted in so I can pull this dent out. Because once this dent is pulled, I can cut this patch out and start over. Because this is just, I don't think anything I can salvage for the welding. We'll just cut it out and start over, I think. I think up here my biggest concern is just this area of the body line, and I'm hoping once I get this bottom piece in, this will, of course, it'll pop out a little bit. But I may have to shim up the nose a hair to bring this up a little. I do have some shims I bought, but unfortunately all of the other hardware for all the clips that fit in here and these bolts are still all back ordered. The little clips, I don't even have one, here we go. These little clips, I'll be getting those very shortly, but these studs themselves are still back ordered for who knows how long. So we're kind of stuck there, but now that we've got the sandblaster, we can start working on that and then hit the passenger side panel in the rear. So let's get this fender off, get it up on the table, and work on those holes. Alrighty, let's see if we can take care of some of these holes. So with all the different holes here, the larger ones I'm jumping around to so I don't get one particular area too hot. I'll come back to it once it's cooled off, and that means that hopefully this will not warp from the from the welding. All right, we're gonna let this cool off and we'll come back and grind her down. Alrighty, now gotta go fill in a little more spot here, popped out. And here, but everything else here is filled in pretty well. These had a little bit of a high spot on them from when they were pulled out with the dent puller. So now that I've got some fill in here, I'm gonna go tap them back down and try and get just a hair more flush. This area right in here is still a little wavy right in through here. And this area here, you can see I got that crease filled in, and the style line there actually looks pretty darn straight. There we go. A little more work to do on it, a little crooked, but I can fix that. But I'm not gonna try and fill this all in here with weld. I'm just gonna use some filler in here. That's gonna be probably the better way to go, just to get it filled in and not create a lot of excess heat and material in here. It would be nice to learn the old art of leading, but not for this project. So we're gonna go ahead, tap these down, and fill in these couple of little holes, and then hit it with the wire wheel, and just make sure everything else looks pretty good here. And then we're almost gonna be ready to start putting some filler on here. So we will we'll wrap up the little bit of welding and clean up, and then be ready for some filler. So that's gonna be the next step before we go ahead and tackle this thing down here. Unfortunately, I have not found a patch panel for that, probably because I'd prefer you to buy the entire fender. So, but it's 600 bucks a pop, a little out of the price range considering this looks like it's gonna be salvageable. Alrighty folks, we've gone ahead and started to lay down a little bit of filler on the suspect areas we know about. Little divot in here. There was a big area in here I didn't notice, and I changed the lighting position. This area here was dented in pretty well, and I pushed most of that back out, just leaving a little bit of area to fill where we did that kind of the reconstruction of the style line where all these holes were. A couple other areas filled up where some of that pitting was, and we're just gonna kind of use this as our baseline and go from there. What I'll probably do is come back down here with DTM primer and put a coat of that over this, just so we've got some protectant on it from the elements. We are outdoors in the shop now, so we're out in the garage. So we'll keep this protected and use that as kind of a guide to figure out where our new low spots will be. So we're gonna let this cure up and come back and start sanding away. Alrighty, what's going on? We have taken some time. It is now dark out, and we've been waiting for the filler to dry and kind of gone through some of our initial sanding and found some of our problem areas. Now this area right here we knew had problems, and I'm gonna do a little more work up here for sure. This area in here is really low and here is high, you can see. So I'm gonna actually take this and try and tap this out a little bit, both here and here, and trying to follow a contour line. I mean, I could put filler in there, but again, I don't want this to be a Bondo queen. So we'll try and tap it out just a little more so we don't have this area just full of Bondo, because that's no fun and it's something that everyone's gonna see when they walk up to the car. So otherwise, this area here has come out pretty well. We've got plenty of work to do here, of course, but the style line is starting to come back pretty well. A little wavy, but again, once I build this area up a little more, I can make some marks with some tape and use that as a guide to follow when I'm sanding that down. So otherwise, over here it's come out nice. There's some pitting back here that's filled in nice and is taken care of. Up top, not too bad. A little more work to do right in here, a little low still. And then up at the front, this filled in really nice. There were just a couple really minor spots. Where was it? This spot here I tapped out, and that's gonna need just a little skim over the top of it. And then our other big area here is gonna need a little more fill, and there's actually, oh, you can see under here, maybe, yeah, there's the boxing for where the headlight bucket goes in. And there's a second layer of material here that I can't get to this front fender area unless I take out this entire headlight basket, and I'm not gonna do that. So I'm just going to fill this in a little more, and that's going to be good to go. This line is coming together nicely. And then down here, a lot of this is going to get sanded off, tough to see. Let's move our light. A lot of this is going to get sanded off. Just a little bit of a dimple down there that was tough to hit without kind of bending the other areas out of shape, just because we're right down by the end here and whatnot. So we'll get this cleaned up. Otherwise, everything else here is looking really good so far. We've got our soft sanders that I just dropped. Oh. But those are working well for us. Just got some 120 on there. And this again is going to be the main area of focus right in here. But for now, we're going to call it a night and come back the next day and keep sanding away. You notice I'm still avoiding this whole area down here. What I need to do also is, you can see there's a little bit of a natural curve. It goes in here and kind of stops right here. So this has to be tapped out a little bit, but the whole thing needs to curve just a hair more, because these holes at the base of the fender actually need to go up about 3/8 of an inch to fit in the holes properly. So I'm going to try and grab a ratchet strap and kind of pinch the whole thing together and hope this curves out a little more. So that is my hope. We'll see what actually happens when you hope in one hand and something in the other. But hopefully that's going to be our end game, and that gets cleaned up. And it's just going to be a lot of work and sanding and getting this thing ready for the DTM primer. Otherwise, it's starting to take shape. It's like one of those first kind of milestones. You're putting filler on it and getting it ready for, prepped for primer. I think that's pretty cool. And I've got a whole car worth of it over there on the 52 to do. So between these two cars, by the end of the summer, I should have arms like the Muscle, from Diesel Brothers, or Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone. I don't know. So we'll go ahead and come back once we've gotten this area cleaned up and this area cleaned up. Those are going to be the two areas that really I'm going to focus on with the filler and get that nice and dressed up. Then, of course, we'll move on to this area here, cut that out, replace it, and then once we get it fixed to the car, we do have this little spot here that needs just a little pull. But again, behind here is more support for the fender itself, so I can't just tap from the back side here and bring it out. So a little unfortunate. Maybe once I cut this part of the panel out, I can go back there with one of my PDR sticks and push it forward, but I don't know that that's going to work for me very well either. I guess we'll figure it out when we get there. Alrighty folks, so we're back here, and we have put a second coat of filler on this big spot on the fender here. And the first coat looked really good, just filling some low spots and working our way through that. A little bit more here too. And sorry about the noise, it's raining, it's been pouring here most of the day, and we have a steel roof, no insulation yet. But while that filler is drying, I'm going to try and work on the front end here and get this disassembled. I know we've got a handful of parts that are damaged, need to be replaced, like this here, a little bit of a plastic piece between here and the bumper itself. This piece is maybe salvageable. This one is missing half of it, so that of course needs to be sourced. But the main part here appears to be complete, albeit rough. So what I want to do is strip down everything out of here, headlights, the grill assembly, and just kind of see what we're looking at. See if everything is actually here and not broken, like any of the mounts for the headlights or anything like that. And then we can start doing some fill on here and getting this ready for primer and paint. So that's going to be our process here. We're going to kind of bounce back and forth between this and fender. So hopefully soon we'll be able to get one or both of these in a primer and go from there. Alrighty, we're gonna wrap this one up right here, otherwise it's gonna get to be way too long. We'll come back in the next video, we'll keep working on the filler here. We did go ahead and get this little brace welded in here. We'll get that cleaned up a little bit and just kind of 1 or 2 steps closer to getting ready for primer and paint, and then we find something to knock us back a step. We are still waiting for some of the big parts. We are still waiting to get this thing running so we can pull it out here where I'm standing or get it out in the driveway for sandblasting, so I'm not taking little bits and pieces off the car at a time. I'd like to take some bigger bites out of it, but you know, until it actually moves, we're stuck here. So thanks for watching. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button below. Check us out on all of our social sites, get some merchandise, and until the next time you see us, probably next week, have fun doing whatever you're doing. Take care. Bye.